retrospective for the media team. We are going to cover common accessioning embargo release, Soul streaming migration, restricted access to media stream, and a couple of other odds and ends. The first thing I'll demo is a kind of boring terminal demo, but Naomi and I worked on cleaning up the rest of the embargo release issues. If we go to the robots box, we can see one thing in the last couple days that got released. If we go to the end of the log and search for this Druid back, you can see it got released because of the condition that some of the objects in a bunch of the releases are failing previously. The cron job had been fixed and the solar field names had been updated. The job was running, but it was failing. We had to update configuration for SDR and workflow services, and then we also had to fix store services to properly write back the updated rights metadata data stream, and we added tests in both common accessioning and door services, and then deployed that code. The next thing to cover is the migration of the old Soul streaming physical box to the newer virtual machine infrastructure. A lot of that was Naomi last week, moving HTML to the new server, building a new Wowza application, which Tommy helped configure, and working with ops to provision the virtual machines and work out security stuff. We can see here, hopefully, a demo of some streaming video migrated from the old Soul streaming to Soul streaming legacy, and you'll see that we can skip around in the video. It's pretty quiet. So you probably can't hear any sound, but I swear we heard sound earlier when I was testing it with the volume all the way up. Let's see. The next thing to show is messaging for restricted access to media streams. So location-based and user rights-based restrictions. We can see here that the first video is world readable. The underlying logic still needs to be ironed out. There are 3 pull requests. They're all mostly done, but need some polish and some additional logic and maybe tests before they get merged. But what you'll see is this limited access for non-Stanford guests getting displayed. Eventually that will display a message that's particular to either Stanford-only access or location-only access, and that file icon in the background that's covering the video will only show in the location-only restriction when it doesn't matter whether you're a Stanford user or not. The underlying logic that returns that information from stacks still needs to be wired up a little bit more to embed so that it can interpret that information correctly. And then is just kind of the final other things we did. Jesse worked on article API review for SearchWorks. We got the authorization from Wowza to do silent install, which should make, I believe, deployments easier. And we closed the ticket about getting information for whether Wowza blocks replay attacks for segments of media streams and for media stream manifests. And it appears that they do. By default, they also actually have a mechanism that's pretty similar to the token mechanism we implemented in Stacks. But since we have that in Stacks, it seems like we don't need to also do the Wowza part. To do leftover from this sprint, we have to finish the rest of the access restriction work so that this displays correctly. This is all kind of branches running on Perl test, embed dev, Stacks test. And then we still have to do full end-to-end testing for location-based authorization and for Wacko characters and file names. That was another thing that got done in this sprint. I believe Lynn created most, if not all, of the test data that we need for that, at least for the location stuff. And there's a pretty good set of various weird file characters. I believe that is it for this sprint.
Okay.